In all my other videos, I normally focus on doing the things that cause you to win a project, but in this video, I'm gonna show you 27 different things that are gonna make you lose a project. And if you're watching this, you might even be doing some of these, so stop. As you listen to these things not to do, I want you to think about it, and I want you to flip every single one of them to the negative. Flip it upside down. If I tell you don't do this, then flip to what the opposite is, do this. All right, so let's go. Number one, don't follow up on your jobs. If you wanna lose a project, do not follow up. Do not call them. As a matter of fact, if you want to lose a project, submit your proposal, call them once, maybe once again 3 months later, and don't ever call them again. All right, so let's flip it. How do you win a project? The way you win projects is in the follow-up. Everybody always gets busy. We're all contractors, man. We're all stressed. We're all busy. We have 1,001 things to do. And following up is the number one thing you need to do. Think about it. You spend the time to go get the lead, write the estimate, write the proposal, calculate all the costs, you submit it, and then what? You forget about the project because you move on to the next thing. At the end of the day, if you do that, you're treating this like a transaction, and so will they. So don't get mad when they go shop your number. Number two, don't bid consistently. All right, so a lot of these clients are gonna give you many opportunities, the first bid, the second bid, the third bid. And what a lot of people do is they try once or twice and then they give up. If you wanna really guarantee not to win the project, just don't bid the job. That's pretty much the only way you're gonna fail. Because if you consistently bid, and this is what I call bid sprints, then you have grounds to be able to go visit the client, meet them, shake hands. You've invested time and money into them. Therefore, when you go visit them and do your follow-up, they're gonna pay attention to you because they're gonna see your name and your company pop up over and over and over in their inbox. And that's gonna lead you into be able to negotiate if they pay attention to you. So the first thing you got to do is follow up a bunch of times so you can get on their radar, right? Number two, you have to bid them a bunch of times so they know you're serious. And number three, you have to negotiate the job. Number four, one of the best ways to lose a job is by submitting a ridiculously high price. Listen, believe it or not, I do estimates. This is my business. This is what we do. Our primary business is estimating. And I see clients submitting random freaking numbers like this guy's low, this guy's high. And at the end of the day, there's always going to be a market value aspect to winning a project. So for example, let's just throw out a number. If a job is $200,000, right? That's the benchmark number. And we got a couple guys at 180, 190, another guy at 220. That's a good healthy range. You can negotiate around that. If everybody's like around 180, 200, right? And you submit like 290, either A, they're gonna throw out your bid and not waste your time, or B, they're not gonna take you seriously. They're gonna assume that you're just a bad estimator. If you're a bad estimator, you're probably a bad builder. Number five, submitting a ridiculously low bid is a surefire way to guarantee that you're not gonna get the job. So the same way that a high bid is gonna throw you out of the running, so will a low bid. Because what happens is these architects, owners, GCs, developers, whoever you're bidding for, they're gonna get multiple bids. And like I said in the previous number, there's a market value aspect. So they know where the numbers need to be. If you come in at that $200,000 number, like where everybody's at, close to 200,000, if you come in at like 150 or 120, like way too low, they're gonna probably throw out your bid. They're gonna throw out the low guy, the super low guy, and the super high guy. And they're gonna keep whoever's in the range, right? If you're outside of that, then you probably aren't gonna have a chance to even negotiate that job. By the way, if you're watching this, you're in construction, you're bidding jobs. If you need help with estimating, our primary service is estimating. We work with developers, with GCs, with subcontractors. If you wanna learn more about our estimating service, I'm gonna put a link here somewhere, and I'll also put it in the description below. Number six, you can for sure lose a job by not investing in the client and the project. So what a lot of people do is they treat this business transactionally. If you want to win jobs, you're asking these people to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollar contracts. But a lot of us we fool ourselves to think that we can submit a proposal, see attached PDF, let me know where our numbers stand. Boom. And that's what we send. And that's our sales pitch, right? If you want to win these contracts, think about this. The last time you went to go buy a car, what do you have to do? You got to go see the salesperson. You got to like the salesperson. You got to like the sales manager. You got to go test drive the car. There's a little bit of physical investment in the car, right? There needs to be some sort of physical presence. We got to visit them. We got to call them. We got to get to know them. We got to show them our value because that's going to build the relationship and the reputation that you need with clients so that you can win the first job and then the second job and then build repeat business from that client. Number seven, one of the best ways to lose a project is not adjusting your pricing for market value. So I want you to go back for a second. I want you to think of when you bought your house. If you bought your house, you'll know what I'm talking about. When you go into the real estate market and you go shopping for a house, there's a market value aspect to buying a house, right? A house in this case is your project, but I'm gonna use the metaphor for you. You go to buy a house and your neighbors all have similar houses, similar square footages, similar design. They're about the same age, right? And this guy's at 500,000. This guy's at 510,000, right? Previous sales. Now this guy wants to sell his house for 700,000. If I'm a shopper and I have these three options, where am I gonna go? I'm gonna go with the 510 or the 500, and that 700 I'm not even gonna consider, right? Now vice versa, if the house is valued at 500 and I'm a seller, I'm not gonna sell my house for 400 or for 350, right? A buyer would love that, but I'm not gonna do that. So there's a supply and demand, there's a market value aspect to projects. So whenever you go bid a project, there's gonna be a range, and there are outliers. Like for example, if you're the high bidder, as long as you're within the reasonable range, or if you're the low bidder, as long as you're within the reasonable range, they're gonna pay attention to you. But if you're way off, right? If you're way off, they're not gonna pay attention to you. Secondly, the market's always changing. Supplies are always changing. Your competitors are always changing. So by doing your follow-ups, you're gonna get feedback on your prices, and you're gonna be able to adjust your numbers. You're gonna be able to go up, go down. You might be leaving money on the table, or vice versa. You might be consistently too high, and you're outbidding yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot. What you have to do is you have to keep your finger on the pulse of all your bids and see where you're coming in at. And then you're gonna use the market data, the data that your clients are giving you, to adjust your future prices. Actually, I have a client of mine. We started doing this. His name is Jose Palma. He's a drywall contractor. He just started his business. I've talked about him in other videos. He started as a computer programmer, right? That was his original, that's his business, his main business. So he goes out and starts bidding. And I told him, bid at 30%. Just put all your bids, 30%, go. Your direct cost plus 30%, boom. And I submit. And after a while, he started getting feedback. And then we decided to go down a little bit, and he started submitting 25, then 20%, then 15, and we leveled off. So we were trying to see where the market was, and boom, within about a month after making those adjustments, he won 3 projects back to back, boom, totaling about almost $300,000 in projects. All right, let me ask you a question. How are you calculating your costs? Are you calling clients? Are you following up? Put it in the comments below, and I'll go ahead and respond to you. And if you have any questions on how to do any of this follow-up, put it in the comments and I'll respond. All right, let's move on. Number 8, you can lose a project by having the wrong scope of work. I see this so much. You're in a rush, there's the bid date, there's barely any time to do the estimate. You prepare the estimate as fast as you can, and boom, you miss something important. Or vice versa. You submit too much and your pricing is wrong. So a couple things can happen here. 1, your pricing could end up being too high because you have the wrong scope of work. Number 2, it could be too low. Number 3, your proposal, you didn't do it right. You don't have a breakdown. These GCs and these architects, these developers, when they're reviewing bids, they're getting hundreds of bids. I'm telling you, like for every project, on average, they're getting 75 proposals. I want you to remember that, 75. If they're bidding 20 jobs a month and they're getting 75 proposals per project, that's 1,500 proposals that they're getting. It might be the same clients over and over and over, but there's still 1,500 proposals. You think they already have time to sit there and sift through the scope of work? That's way too much work. So make sure you clarify the scope of work that you're gonna submit. All right, number 9, show them that you don't know what you're doing. A lot of times you might be young in your business, or you might be adding on a service and you don't really know too much about it. And when you go talk to your clients and they ask you these technical questions, you really gotta know what you're talking about, because the reason they hire you is for your expertise. Now, there are certain scenarios where you might have a specialized item like a niche hot panel or some specialized custom something, right? And you don't really know too much about it. That's okay too. Be transparent. If you're a painting contractor, for example, and somebody comes up to you and starts asking you about like waterproofing and the thicknesses and the mills, I mean, most painters, to be honest, probably don't know about that stuff. But if you do know the thicknesses and you do know what you're supposed to have, it's like a signal to your client that you're the right guy for the project. So the bottom line is, if you're able to convey expertise in whatever you're doing, you're gonna have a leg up over your competition, because if you do that, your clients are gonna reward you with more projects. Number 10, do not attend, no matter what you do not go to the walkthroughs. That's such terrible advice. You have to go to the walkthroughs. The walkthroughs are where you're gonna meet your clients, you're gonna shake the people's hands, you're gonna do the PR, right? You're gonna go visit them, you're gonna go walk the job. At the end of the day, 99% of what you need to get the job done is in the plans. So you don't really need to go to the job walkthrough most of the time. But what I recommend is you go, because you're gonna see your competitors there, you're gonna meet your clients, you're gonna do the PR stuff. And that's really what you need to win the jobs. Secondly, a lot of clients see attendance as gauging the level of interest you have in the project. You gotta go to the job walkthroughs, or you gotta go to all the meetings, because that's gonna show your interest to your client. Number 11, don't be professional. Show up to their office with drywall dust, with dirty boots, with like concrete splatter. Go try to meet the architect, go try to meet the senior designer, go try to meet the owner of the development firm, and go try to have a meeting. Listen, if you want to be a successful businessman, you have to dress the part. You have to wear the slacks, you have to wear the shirt. As a matter of fact, I would even get your shirts printed with an embroidery, right? Like this, but I would even get long sleeve shirts. Nice black or gray slacks, or beige, or whatever color. Trim your beards, clean shaven, like look like a business owner. Don't look like a worker. Even if you have to change in your car, make sure you dress the part when you go meet these people, because it's gonna be such a big difference. And then secondly, when you're submitting things like change orders and contracts and proposals, you wanna have your logo, you wanna be branded, you wanna have a nice website. Now, a lot of these things don't directly influence you winning a job, but they do give like the impression, the first impression. And impressions are very important because when you meet clients, they take you more seriously. Now, at this point, you might be realizing half of winning jobs is not doing the wrong things. I have a training program where I actually coach you and I teach you directly how to do the right things, how to grow your business, how to get your leads, how to negotiate the job, how to build your operations, all of that in my 8-Figure Contractor Academy. So if you're interested and you want to learn more, right now we're offering a 14-day free trial when you join. So you can click on the link up here somewhere, or I'll put it in the description below, and I will train you because we have weekly calls, we have training, we have all that stuff, and I'll train you directly on how to grow your business. All right, number 12, don't answer your phone. I hated when I was a superintendent, I would call my subcontractors, and when they wouldn't answer their phone, something shady is going on. Like, I've even had my PM one time when I was new, we're calling this guy, right? He doesn't answer. And I think it was like the plumber or something. We're calling him and he's like, hey, Danny, give me your phone. I'm like, all right. So he calls the guy and the guy freaking picks up. And he's like, oh, you don't pick up my call, but you pick up from Daniel's phone, right? And I learned, I'm like, oh, you got to be sneaky with these guys. And at the end of the day, listen, I'm qualified to say this because I was a subcontractor. I was in the field. I was in the trenches. These guys are all savages. These guys are all like the hardest people to manage. They're like the hardest. They're so sharp. They're very good at this stuff. So you almost have to be like sharper than them, calling them out on their stuff. So answer your phone. Your clients are going to appreciate it. Number 13, submit your bids late. All right. So I always talk about this all the time. Bid dates are not hard dates. They're almost like request dates most of the time. In most cases, if you call up your guy and you're like, hey, I need a couple more days. Like, can you help me out? 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, go ahead and submit a couple days late. In other words, what you're asking for is an extension. Don't just, oh, the bid date's Friday. Yeah, I'll just send it Tuesday. No problem, right? You got to call them, because if you just submit on Tuesday and you didn't have this conversation and kind of get an approval, they're going to get your proposal and be like, this guy, like, he's late. Like, he doesn't even call me. Is he serious about working with me? So you want to at least call them and get an extension. All right, number 14, lack of insurance coverage. GCs and owners aren't going to accept a workers' comp exemption. Now, I don't know if it's by state, but typically you're allowed a workers' compensation exemption if you are an officer. Well, you're the officer of your company, but you and the officers of the company can do the work but not need the workers' comp, because if somebody gets hurt, you're not going to sue yourself. But if you do have workers, you do have employees, you do need to have the right workers' compensation insurance. And any GC, any owner, any developer, any professional is going to require that. And general liability, you need at least $2 million aggregate, which is the total, and then $1 million per occurrence. That's typically the standard. Number 15, you can lose a job by arguing with your potential client. This is a funny story. We had 3 Burlington coat factories. This is a big like warehouse, like department store, and we had 3 of them. We literally had the contracts, and all I had to do was sign them. But when I started doing my detailed scope of work, I saw that there was an issue with the gauges. The GC put, you have to decide which gauge to use, and we had estimated 20 gauge. When we went to the plans, there was a limiting heights table, which basically says, if the deck height is this is the thickness of the framing you're gonna use, right? So according to the architect, we needed 16 gauge framing. I called up my GC and I'm like, hey, there's an issue here. You want me to sign this contract off of these plans? I just need you to add a line that says, based on 20 gauge framing. And he comes back and says, no, I'm not gonna sign that. You need to go by the plans. I'm like, but the plans say this. Do you want me to adjust my price to this? No, you can't do that. So me and him went back and forth at it. And at the end of the day, you know what he did? Listen, we're withdrawing our contracts to you, these 3 projects. We're gonna go give it to somebody else that doesn't give us these issues. So I lost probably $500,000 or $600,000 or something like that in projects because I've had a fight with my client before I signed the freaking contract. Number 16, show your client you don't have the right people to do their job. All right, so if you're having staffing issues or you don't have enough people to man their job, they're gonna smell that. And if you give them the impression that it's like you and your brother or you and 3 other guys and that you're submitting a bid for a big job, they're probably not gonna hire you. Likewise, I've had clients that are one-man operations. Like I had a guy once that it was just him, one man, one guy, and he had a crew of like a few guys, but he would submit these estimates, these projects for us to estimate for him of these like huge, like multi-million-dollar apartment buildings, like apartment building complex of like 10 buildings. And I told him, I said, hey, listen, I don't think you should bid these jobs because nobody in their right mind is going to give you a $5 million stucco contract because it's just you and like a couple guys. You got to start at the bottom with like the small to medium jobs. And that's typically what I recommend to my clients. You kind of have to know where you are, like where you stand. You don't want to overbid something that you can't do because you're not going to win. Number 17, showing them that you have too many jobs active at the same time. This kind of goes with number 16. If you have too many jobs at the same time, they're going to get nervous that you're not going to staff their job. So for example, I had a project manager once that he wouldn't hire some guys because they already had a job with them. So he would make sure that like if we had a subcontractor that was already doing another project for us, he wouldn't hire him. He would hire somebody else. Even if the guy's bid was better, he would still hire the other guy. And that's wisdom, because if they're doing 5 jobs for you and then 5 jobs for this guy, 5 jobs, they're not going to do your job properly. They're going to not put attention to it. They're not going to submit their stuff on time. You're going to be just 1 out of 20 jobs. You want somebody that's going to focus on your job. Number 18, look like you're working from the back of the truck. All right, there's nothing that smells like little guy syndrome like somebody that looks like they just came from a job site. All right, if you're going to go prospecting, and I talk about prospecting all the time, visiting clients, go dressed to impress. And I talked about this a little bit in the professionalism, but even if you are working from your truck and you're driving around all of your city in your truck, and this is your office, don't look the part. Have a spare change of clothes in your truck where you can change, boom, go to like the local McDonald's or something, change, go visit clients, fix your hair, fix your beard, get trimmed up so you don't look like, don't have drywall dust when you go show up to a developer's office. Even if you just came from the job site, don't do that, because that's gonna look like, all right, I want a professional. This guy's a worker. All right, let me ask you a question. Are you working from the back of the truck? Let me know what kind of truck you have. Put it in the comments below. Number 19, do not show up to the meetings. All right, you really do have to show up to the meetings. Every single meeting, every walkthrough. I talked about this a second ago when I talked about the walkthroughs. You have to show up to the meetings. It shows interest. You're gonna get a gauge of where you stand. You're gonna be able to see the clients in person. Every single touch point is critical when you're trying to win jobs. So go to every single meeting so you can get to know your client better. Number 20, don't be a source of expertise on the project. So people hire you based on your expertise. And this is primarily when it comes to subcontractors. So if you're a sub, listen up. You need to be an expert at your trade. GCs are general, right? That's why they're called general contractors, because they generally manage the job, right? In a general's perspective. So they're gonna subcontract the plumbing contractor, the electrical contractor, the drywall contractor, the framing contractor, because of their expertise and because of the crews they have. So what you wanna do is you wanna make sure that you are a source of expertise on the project. A lot of times when you're looking at the plans, I know that you want to do it like this, but this is a better material to use. Oh, look, I used this on 3 jobs ago. This is a better method, a better system to use. And if you're able to bring that to the table, even if your price is higher, you're going to look like a valuable source of information for that project. And they're going to want to lean towards giving it to you. Number 21, don't be a problem solver. There are times when things come up in jobs that are just problems and you got to be able to figure them out. So for example, when I was a super, I had a scenario where there was a conflict on the job, and all I would typically do for the most part is, hey, I get the mechanical guy, I'll get the electrical guy, and I'll get the drywall guy, and I'll say, hey, what would you do? What would you do? What would you do? And they usually talk to each other, right? But if I were to ask my mechanical guy, hey, what would you do? Oh, I don't say, I don't know, right? Then it's like, why do I hire this guy? They're not bringing value. They're just doing the work. Like, I could just get anybody to do that. So you want to make sure you're a problem solver. Number 22, we're in the home stretch. You can lose a job by looking like you're gonna be a problem. All right, so in our office, we have this thing called PITB, pain in the butt clients. Essentially clients that from day one are raising red flags. If you are a red flag client and you're causing issues for your potential client, even before you have a contract, what are they gonna think? This guy's gonna be a freaking problem. So even though his price is better, I'm not gonna give him the job. I'm just gonna use his number to shop it and go get the other guy that's not gonna be a problem. Now, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed to my Iron Builders channel, then maybe you're the problem. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, click that little like button, the little thumbs up, and subscribe so you get notified of more videos every time we release it. Number 23, you can lose a job by not having financial stability. So there are a lot of clients that you might be overextended on your credit line. You might have too many jobs going on. You might be like giving the signals because of the way you're dressing that you don't have the financial stability to do a job. Now, if you start working with bigger contractors or bigger developers, the latest thing that they've been doing now is they actually check your company almost like when you do a credit check. They check your profit and loss. They look at the numbers. They look at like how many jobs you have at the moment. They look at your bonding. They look at a lot of financial details. And if it doesn't look like you have good financial stability, they're not going to get you, right? I work with clients all the time and I tell them, hey, look, you need to get a credit line and you need to get terms of your supplier. Oh, but I don't have good credit. Dude, you're a business owner. You need to have good credit because you're going to need credit to grow your business. Go fix your credit. Go get a credit repair person. Go pay your bills. The quickest thing you can do is just pay your bills on time and just wait. And that's how you fix your credit. Number 24, you can lose a project by your client having a bad experience working with you on a previous project. So I always talk about this all the time, that if you want to build recurring business, your clients have to have good experiences with you. Make sure that every time you do work with a client, make sure you knock it out of the park. Hit a home run every single time. So essentially, you want to just do a good job. That's it. And here's a little pro tip. Most contractors are just really bad. They're just terrible. If you could just be good, you could just do your job and show up on time and just do the work. You don't have to be like amazing or anything. If you're amazing, then you're a bonus, but you just have to do the work. You're going to be seen as, oh my gosh, this guy's great. Number 25, you have a bad reputation working with the company. All right, so this is kind of like number 24 was about your personal experience with that client, with that specific project manager or that specific estimator. But number 25 is about your bad reputation with the company. So you don't really want to have a bad reputation with the company because those guys talk. Hey, that drywall guy, oh man, no, he's behind schedule. He sucks. I hate that guy. Right? You don't want that reputation within an organization because it's hard to recover from that. Number 26, don't have the right licenses. Now, in a lot of areas, you do need licenses for all your work. Like here in Miami, if you're a subcontractor, technically, the law says you need a license to go do subcontractor work. There's some trades that you have to pull a secondary permit or a subsidiary permit that you do need a license, like mechanical, electrical, plumbing. But for a lot of trades like drywall, painting, flooring, things like that, you don't really need a license if you're working under the general contractor's master permit, right? But if you're in places like California that have a lot more regulations, and I think New York and some other places, you do need the right licenses. So make sure that you're licensed and insured, and I talked about insurance earlier, to do the work so that doesn't become an issue in the future. Number 27, and don't click off this video yet, I got something extra after number 27. All right, so another way you can lose a job is not responding to project-related inquiries quickly. A lot of times you're busy, they email you asking for some information or asking you for some paperwork or asking you to submit a change order or to review something, and if they get the sense that you're not responding to let's say they say, hey, can you give me a breakdown? Can you give me an updated proposal? Hey, we made this revision. Can you make these changes? And you're not doing them, they might start looking elsewhere for somebody else that is gonna pay more attention to their job. So make sure, even if you're busy, you pay attention to the jobs you're bidding. All right, here's the bonus. So in this video, we talked about all the things not to do, right? So you can win the project, you're gonna win over a client. But in this next video, I'm gonna share with you 27 ways to lose a client. So make sure you don't do these things. And if you want my expert help, my coaching, my training, my videos to teach you how to grow your construction business, I'm gonna put a link in the description to join our 8-Figure Contractor Academy. There's a free trial right now. Let's go. Let's grow your business.